My name is Adrienne.
My name's Olivia.
And today we're going to be analyzing this living room scene as we explore the themes in this scene that also correlate with the themes in the rest of Parasite.
These themes include the parasitic cycle, the difference between classes, and the dependence they have on each other.
These themes foreshadow and represent the overall message of Bong Joon-ho's vision, and we see these throughout the entire movie. So without further ado, let's just get right into it.
우리한테 용기사 말고 나한테 제발 좀.
타이밍 죽인다.
Right off the bat of this scene, we hear the thunder and the lightning, and it shows the beginning of the rainstorm. And this rainstorm is a main turning point in the movie, as the downfall of the rain represents the downfall of the family, and how in this point in the movie, things start to fall apart for not only the family, but also the housekeeper, who we'll see in a few seconds in the scene.
Not only does the rainstorm show the downfall of the family, but it is representative of the unsustainability of the parasitic cycle, showing not only how the family's plan comes crashing down, but how the cycle of parasites will always be tumultuous as the dependence on exploitation leads to an unstable foundation.
야, 번개 꽈르르. 야, 제시카, 건배.
야, 너 아까 내가 위에 올라가서 너 아까 욕조에서 목욕할 때
목욕 뭐?
뭐랄까 어울린다 그래야 되나? 이 부잣집 분위기랑 잘 맞아. 우리랑은 달라.
In this part of the scene, when Kevin tells Jessica that she's the only one that fits in, this is foreshadowing Jessica's later death in the movie, as she was the only one that really fit in with the rich people, but she's also the only one in the family that got killed. And this represents the difference of classes and how, because Jessica fit in with the rich people, it doesn't mean that she still is meant to belong there, and how the difference of classes is a difficult barrier to break.
그 욕조에 앉아가지고 텔레비를 딱 보는데 이 집에서 오래 산 느낌?
기정이.
그래서 말인데 기정아, 너 만약에 이 집이 우리 게 된다면 여기서 우리가 산다 치면 너 어디로 네 방을 쓰고 싶냐? 이 남궁 현자 선생님의 이 걸작 하우스에서 어디가 네 말 쏙 드냐 이 말이지.
아 몰라 씨발. 일단 살게 해줘봐. 내가 살면 고민을 해볼게.
아니 뭐 지금 살고 있잖아. 이렇게 거실 복판에서 술도 잔뜩 마시면서.
그렇죠. 뭐 이게 사는 거지 뭐 사람이 별건가.
여기가 지금 우리 집이야. 아늑하잖아.
아늑해.
This scene expands upon the idea of the difference between classes as the family fantasizes about what would happen if the mansion was theirs instead of the parks. It's the dream of moving up in society and belonging to a higher class that motivates the Kim family to participate in parasitic and exploitative activity. This can be seen in the way that the Kim family is feeding off the resources of the parks, enjoying their alcohol, enjoying their food, and enjoying their house as well, calling it cozy. They even go as far to say that this is their home now, embedding themselves into the lives of the parks. However, because of the exploitative nature of this, it still shows the economic barrier that exists between the Kims and the parks, showing the barrier that exists between parasites and hosts. It's this barrier that perpetuates the cycle of dependence and exploitation among people as well as classes that leads the Kims to continue their exploitation and dependence on the Park family, as well as their parasitic behavior, among others, shown throughout the rest of the movie.
아늑해. 아늑하셔? 그래. 또 이러다가 갑자기 박 사장이 딱 집에 온다 쳐봐. 김기택 인간? 바퀴벌레처럼 샥샥샥샥 숨기.
In this scene, the mom calls the dad a cockroach, and this is supposed to represent the fact that they have cockroaches living in their own home and how they are considered the cockroaches living in the rich people's home. We're shown the parasitic cycle here as the rich people need the poor people to work for them because they're unable to do it for themselves, and how the poor people need the rich people to pay them and to give them housing and food. We also see the housekeeper later in this scene and how she is also a parasite to the rich people and she is feeding off of them. This also brings us back to the difference in classes and how this class barrier is essential to the parasitic cycle, as the poor people need the rich people and how the rich people need the poor people, as rich people aren't going to be feeding off of other rich people and poor people aren't going to be feeding off of other poor people. So there has to be the levels of class for one to feed off of one another.
뭐야? 누구야 이 시간에?
뭐냐?
아니 이 양반이 왜?
이거 그 아줌마 맞지? 뭐야, 왜 온 거야?
아니 계속 누르네.
This scene further shows the dependence the rich have on the poor and the poor have on the rich, as the old housekeeper comes back to not only feed her parasite, but to find a new host to exploit. This desperateness she has to find a new host, shown through her insistent ringing of the doorbell, shows how the economic barrier is responsible for leading the poor people in this film to resort to exploitative measures to survive. However, these actions are reflective of the society that they live in, as the poor people would not need to resort to these measures if they were not being exploited by the rich first. This loop of exploitation between the poor and the rich shows how being a parasite is a never-ending cycle that will continually build upon itself.
밤늦은 시간에 정말 대단히 죄송합니다. 다른 건 아니고요. 부엌 지하실에 제 물건을 깜빡 놔두고 온 게 있어가지고요.
제가 이제 관둘 때 워낙 급하게 쫓겨났거든요. 경황도 없이.
문 좀 열어주시겠어요?
As the housekeeper is asking to be let back into the house, we learn that she is also a parasite, and she is a parasite asking to be let back into her host. Parasites need a host, otherwise they'll die, and she is not only taking care of herself as a parasite, but also her husband, who has been living in the house as a parasite.
Again, this cycle only exists because of the economic barriers that exist within this society that keeps the poor reliant on the rich and the rich reliant on the poor. This can be shown in the way where the original housekeeper tries to make her new host, where she threatens to blackmail them if they don't provide her and her husband with the supplies and nutrients that they need to survive.
Overall, Parasite has multiple overarching themes such as the parasitic cycle, class barriers, as well as the reliance on poor people and rich people.
This is all shown in the scene as we find out why the Kims are parasites to the Parks, how there are multiple cycles of parasites, and how both the rich and the poor are dependent on exploitation to survive. The rich, such as the Park family, exploit the poor, like the Kims and the housekeeper, systematically, while because of their lack of power, the poor Kims and the housekeeper must exploit people on a personal level. In the end, it's this dependence both classes and parasites and hosts have on each other that make this movie so interesting, because it makes audiences reflect on the morality of their society and how they are both a parasite and a host.
Thank you for watching our analysis. We hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.